The Newsday continues here on One News Now. I'm Sean Yao. President Duterte has restored the country's VFA, or Visiting Forces Agreement, with the United States after his meeting with Pentagon Chief Lloyd Austin. Defense and security analyst Jose Antonio Custodio joins us via Zoom to discuss that further. Good afternoon, sir. First off, what was your reaction to the president's sudden decision to, turn back to the DFA, or VFA rather, and where do you think this decision came from, considering his previous very strong stance on the matter?
If you start basically last year when this entire thing happened, it wasn't really that much of a strong stance because he would always extend and extend. So it seemed that there was hesitancy to really do away with it, because if the intent was to do away with it from the very beginning, it would have been an irrevocable decision. But since it was being seen now, but more of as a from the start, it was seen as Duterte being irritated with the U.S. for its stand on certain issues like human rights, and of course the issue with De La Rosa's visa, but eventually some also saw it as a way to as a negotiating tack for with the Americans, so which Lorenzana would pick up in that aspect of to renegotiate the VFA. So that's where the Philippines was coming from, and the Americans also, in the sense, was that in their desire to maintain and protect the alliance, they did engage in conversations and discussions with the Philippine side.
Right. Actually, a lot of pundits were saying that this was part of his strategy to get what he wanted from America. Now, I wonder, Jose, if this full restoration of the VFA actually means anything different for our troops on the ground.
Well, basically, unless they come up with anything significantly different from what already is in the agreement, we've had declarations from the Americans that the defense, their alliance is ironclad, that they will come to the defense of Philippine warships or vessels or troops who are attacked by a foreign power. They have said that. In addition to that, even without an external defense issue happening, we already have the U.S. Assisting the Philippines even in its internal security operations. And we saw that during the battle for Marawi in 2017. And of course, in the constant provision of assistance to the Philippines, like to the tune of tens of billions of dollars have already been sent here since 2016, during the beginning of the Duterte administration. So it's more perhaps the increase of presence, possibly presence, because that's what the VFA really calls for. It's a document that legalizes U.S. presence in the Philippines because of the constitutional prohibition that we have with foreign troop presence in the Philippines. So there has to be covered by treaty. So that is why the VFA was started in the 1990s to answer to that constitutional restriction. So perhaps we will see more of that, but more presence here. But the problem, however, is the pandemic. So as long as there's the pandemic, that will curtail many activities between the Philippines and the United States, more than even the previous hiccups that we've had along the way. So, such as the decisions of Duterte. So it's more on the pandemic right now. As we see, for example, around the world, a lot of military to military exercises are being constrained by the pandemic itself. And right now, we even see the Olympics having that problem of people getting infected. So that I think that would constrain. But at the same time, hopefully, it will be able to uh, plan ahead more comprehensively because of the fact that the 6 months, because it was being extended every 6 months. So now you could plan ahead to face any eventuality that would come in the later part of the year or even next year. So they can have a much more what do you call it, less erratic planning atmosphere. Okay, so that's why that would lead to more activities in the future. Okay, because you have a much more stable timetable now instead of just waiting every 6 months for a renewal to happen. So I would hope that in this aspect, given the fact that we have the typhoon season coming, that perhaps there would be the possibility of American assistance to help the Philippines when it comes to humanitarian assistance and disaster response.
Right. At this point, I have to ask you this question, Jose. Will this have any impact at all on our assertions of sovereignty over the West Philippine Sea? In short, I'm asking you what this means for China. And is all of this actually part of that posturing against China?
Well, at the end of the day, it really what matters here is the Philippine resolve to do more in its protection of its EEZ and its entitlements and its islands and its garrisons in the West Philippine Sea. Okay, so I see that more as a Philippine initiative now, because of course the Americans have said, okay, yes, we're going to do this for you, yes, we're going to provide assistance and what have you, but now it's the ball is in the Philippine side. What are we going to do about it? Okay, there is we've seen, for example, in the past few months, a much more active Philippine response when it comes to Chinese presence. When you have the Philippine side challenging the Chinese presence in one of the I think it was Whitsun Reef, and then at the same time there was the Coast Guard vessel that accosted the Chinese who were poaching in our waters. So you have that type of thing. So perhaps it will lead to a much more assertive stance for the Philippines now that we have the visiting forces agreement put on a firmer ground, while at the same time, perhaps if it also depends on what are the assistance and that the Americans are willing to provide us, especially in capability enhancement.
Right, definitely looking forward to like the finer points and details coming to light
Yes.
in the next few months or years. But I have to ask you this as well. What will be the impact of Lloyd Austin's visit to the Philippines, you think, and other Southeast Asian countries as well? Will there be any significant impact, rather? I mean, it's not every day we get the head of the Pentagon visiting, right?
Well, for example, it's an obvious attempt by the Americans to establish a multilateral response and multilateral support for in the region against China. That's basically also how Beijing will see that, because he didn't just come here to the Philippines; he was also in other Southeast Asian countries. So that would send a strong signal to the Chinese that the United States, under the Biden administration, is stepping up its multilateral activities to of course contain China, and that will not be lost to the Chinese. Okay, so that's the very important message here.
All right, thank you so much for your time and all that insight and all that information. Defense and security analyst Jose Antonio Custodio, thanks for joining us today. In other news, the health department has recorded 8,562 new COVID-19 cases on Friday. That is the highest in 2 months. And this has brought the total number of infections to 1,580,000, nearly 62,000 of which are active cases. 145 new COVID-related deaths were also reported today, pushing the total number of deaths to over 27,700. Meanwhile, overall recoveries are now at 1,491,000, with 2,800 new recoveries logged in the last 24 hours. Here are other stories we're keeping our eyes on. Malacanang has confirmed the appointment of Lieutenant General Jose Faustino Jr. as the new Chief of Staff for the Armed Forces of the Philippines. The AFP expressed confidence that Faustino's experiences qualify him to lead the 140,000-strong military force. He replaces the short-term Cirilito Sobejana, who is set to reach the mandatory retirement age of 56 on July 31. The Health Department says there will be no distinction between vaccinated and non-vaccinated individuals during the 2-week ECQ in Metro Manila come August. Citing legal implications, Health Undersecretary Maria Rosario Vergara noted that the government cannot roll out COVID-19 vaccine passes just yet. And more young athletes are flocking to Heidelin Diaz's gym in Zamboanga City in the hopes of following in her footsteps. Jem Vansenia with the report.
More weightlifting aspirants are flocking to Heidelin Diaz gym in Zamboanga City after her historic gold finish in the Tokyo Olympics. 6-year-old Samantha can already lift 5 kilograms, while 15-year-old Ella May can carry weights as heavy as 50 kilograms. Their inspiration, no other than Heidelin.
Ano yung pangarap mo?
Maging para sa kanya. Matulungan siya sa pamilya niya at kaya niya ipaglaban ang Pilipinas.
The gym has been producing professional athletes, including 19-year-old Jane who has already bagged medals from international competitions.
May ano na ako dito, 7 national team na po ako na-produce. Dahil dun sa kanya. Yung starts niya, ma'am, yung nanalo siya, yung dating dun, ngayon mga national team na yun, mga dating nag-train dyan.
Meanwhile, Heidelin's former coach and longtime trainer Bong Atilano shares that the Olympians' road to gold was not easy. He recalled how Heidelin was already training for weightlifting in Universidad de Zamboanga at as early as 11 years old. Atilano said that young Heidelin was very determined to train, to the extent where she cleaned a jeepney just to earn some coins for her fare going to the gym. But there was a time when Heidelin almost gave up on her dreams.
2014, hindi siya na-qualify sa Asia. Doon, bagsak na bagsak siya. So, nung bagsak na bagsak siya, yun, kinausap ko. Gusto na niyang pumunta sa Amerika, meron na siyang visa, 10 years visa.
So you were saying, sir, na talagang tatalikuran na sana ni Heidi?
Sana, yes, sana. Maraming dahilan. Yes. Meron yung picture na nag-meeting ako sa kanila, na sabi ko, give me one chance. Sabi ko, ako ngayon ang direkta maghawak.
Atilano said that hearing the national anthem after Heidelin's historic win brought him to tears.
Sabi ko, Heid, ayaw ko yung gold. Gusto ko pakantahin yung national anthem sa Olympic na madinig ng 206 countries and 2.5 billion people in the world. So, bakit, sir? Hindi man pwede. Dapat mag-gold. Yun na nga. Sabi ko sa kanya, yun pa rin yun. Pero ang gusto ko, marinig talaga ang national anthem. Why? I want to build nationalism and patriotism.
For now, Team Heidelin is undergoing a 7-day quarantine after arriving from Tokyo last Wednesday. For News 5, Jem Avancenia, We Are One News.
For more updates, visit News 5, The Philippine Star, and Business World online. Visit our website, onenews.ph, for more in-depth analysis. You can also catch One News on the Signal Play app. Register for a free account at www.signalplay.com and stream One News live anytime, anywhere. Masks on, wash hands, and stay safe, Philippines. I'm Sean Yao. We are One News.